As we continue today with our series, Working with the Law, the one that I've chosen for today is very, very fitting because it is the law of non-resistance. In working with, using, and learning each of the laws, this one in particular has the most practicality to it. When I say the most practicality, it has the most action steps that you can take. Now, all of the other laws that we've worked with, and every one that you will find in Raymond Hollowell's book, there's a lot of the laws that are mental or emotional or spiritual laws. However, when it gets to this one, there are actual practical things that you as a person, you as an individual can do. And that's where most people are. Most people are looking for that stuff. Give me the tangible stuff. What do I have to do? You got it today. When we look at non-resistance in setting the stage, we have to look at what resistance actually is. So when we're looking at what resistance is, this is the definition that we have for what resistance is. Resistance is the refusal to accept or comply with something. It is the attempt to prevent something by action or argument. I'm going to prevent something from happening by what I do or an argument. Now, the reason that part is so important is because I want you to see, and I want you to get this, that anytime there is an argument, anytime there is conflict, anytime there is confusion, it is there because there is some kind of resistance. So this law, in being non-resistance, tells us that non-resistance is the ability, get this, not to be affected by something, especially adversely. Now, in working with this law of non-resistance and showing how we can be not affected by adversity does not in any way immune you or me to having those experiences. There's going to be some type of resistance, but what this law does is it shows you how to be non-resistant and how not to be affected by when those resistant situations or experiences happen and take place in your life. There's confusion, there's arguments, there's disharmony, there's discord. So to work with being able to put all of that in its place, there's one simple thing that I have found really puts this into perspective on how to be non-resistant. And it is something that everybody knows, everyone has heard of, and it's called the serenity prayer. Ooh. When we really get the serenity prayer, that right there is the whole law of non-resistance in a nutshell. However, we're going to unpack that today and show you how that serenity prayer will bring non-resistance about. The serenity prayer, it first of all starts like this. Come on, y'all know this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Stop right there. That's the whole law. Accept the things that I cannot change. You see, the resistance comes into play when you try to change the thing that you can't change. It's going to fight back. You're going to fight it. That's when there's arguments. That's when there's confusion. That's when there's drama. Because you're trying to change something that ain't your business. You see, there's three businesses. Your business, their business, and God's business. You do your business, let them do their business, so God can do God's business. So there's resistance because we're trying to change the things you cannot change. But while you're trying to change the things you cannot change, in being non-resistance, what we have to do is have the courage to change the things that you can. But here's where the argument comes into play. Not here's the way, here's when. There's always an argument. There's always that confusion, that confrontation. Is when you don't know the difference. You see, the resistance comes in when you're trying to do something that's not yours to do. Instead of working on what you can do. Now, in resistance, why is there these arguments? Why is there this confrontation? I want to show you some reasons that we resist. And this is going to be real interesting or uncomfortable, one of the two. Okay. The reasons we resist, number one, come over here, okay. First reason that we resist is we're impatient. Want it right now. We're trying to change things because I don't have it when I think I'm supposed to have it. I can't wait until next week to have something, so I got to do it right now. It's got to be changed. When I want it changed. Regardless of the fact that there's 20 other people involved. So with everybody else involved, their timeline, their abilities, their perceptions don't matter. It's always centered and surrounding your timeline. It's got to be done now. And if it's not done the way I want it done, then I'm going to resist, or I'm going to try and make it happen in my timeline. That's why there's so much resistance. So it's got to be done in my timeline, when I want it done, when I think it should be done, which leads to the next reason that there's always resistance. Is that we don't trust God. I need to do it when I need it done because I have this idea in my head that God can't do it, or God's gonna fail. God's gonna mess it up. There's a problem. That's why we're resisting, because we are not turning the whole thing over to God. Serenity prayer again, change the things you can. Your business, their business, and God's business. But see, we resist, we argue, we have these confrontations because we're thinking, you know what, I'm going to help God out. Another reason that we put up resistance. I really debated on putting this in, but I got to put it in here because it is a major factor in our resisting things, our major cause for resisting improvement. The main reason we resist progress is comfort.
I'm used to it this way.
When I said I debated putting this in because I used both sides of the podium, I think, is this the side I use for the proper stuff?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, okay, so the proper way to say this is that we don't want to move out of our comfort zone.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to resist change because this is familiar to me. This is what I've done for so long. This is the way Mama did it, the way Grandmama did it, the way everyone's done it. So I'm going to stay here.
Uh-oh.
You know what's coming, don't you? Here's where we get to the unadulterated practical stuff. There's resistance because you lazy. Anything that requires more of effort on your part, you put up resistance to. I'm going to put up the resistance to it because of my comfort zone, because I don't want to do anything else or anything more than this, because somebody else should be doing something too. Why should I do this? I'm looking at everybody else. Ain't nobody else doing it, so why should I? Why should I be at church on time when don't nobody else show up on time? Why? I didn't mean to go there. But I was standing over there, so that's just what came out. Now, this comfort zone, not getting out of your comfort zone and doing it your way, leads to the next reason that there's a lot of resistance. There's resistance to an idea. There's a resistance to something new because you have a need to be right.
Yes. Ouch.
I'm not going to accept this new way or this different way of doing something because I'm superior to you. I know more than you, so therefore I'm right, you're wrong, so I'm going to resist anything that you say, anything that you present to me. I'm not going to accept it. I'm going to resent it. I'm going to resist it because I'm right. And if I'm right, of course, you're wrong. See how this resistance things work and how it brings about arguments? My grandfather said something that was very, very powerful. Actually, he said a lot of stuff that was very, very powerful. But this one particular thing fits this so perfectly. He said, if you are wrong, you can't afford to argue. You're wrong. There's no duh. Why argue when you're wrong? He said, but then on the other side, when you're right, you don't have to. That's why you're not going to get many arguments out of me. I saw this, actually I heard this joke on Facebook the other day. I was scrolling through and it said there was a couple who was in therapy because they kept arguing back and forth, and they kept arguing. And the therapist was like, okay, I know how to help you with this. He said, water. When the argument starts, take some water and just swish it around in your mouth. Came back a month later. He said, okay, keep doing it. After about 4 months of this, the couple told the therapist, I didn't know that water could stop an argument. He said, we're not arguing as much anymore. How did water prevent the argument? The therapist said it didn't. It stopped you from talking. Water is very powerful, yet it is a perfect non-resistant element. We can see where it has worn away the hardest rock. We have seen water sweep everything away in a torrential outburst. It has destroyed bridges, buildings, and trees. Nothing can withstand its force. But water, being so non-resistant, we have to look at how great rivers begin. It starts with a small stream or brook high up in the mountains, where the ice and snow feed into it in the springtime. Note also that it can be, and in most cases is, a very crooked stream. Nothing like the great river it finally flows into. You see, the little stream of water will run into a huge boulder or a tree or a debris, and it has to change course. There are things that will face us. There are situations that will come up where we have to be that stream and be non-resistant and shift direction or shift course to keep going. Another experience will prop up that's debris in your stream, and you have to shift again. But while you are making these shifts, while you are being non-resistant, while you are being non-confrontational, do not confuse meekness for weakness. Just because you shift does not mean that you don't need that shift.
Right.
You see, as the stream, you're trying to get to your goal. You're trying to get to your destination. But there's an argument that takes place, and you have to shift. There is some resistance there somewhere. You never know when it's going to pop up. You never know when it's going to show up. But being non-resistant means that you do a whole lot of shifting. Now, I want to show you an example, because some people really need this example to see how non-resistance actually works. I want you to understand this. I'm not going to go into it too much, but you have to understand that Jesus was a master teacher. The reason he was a master teacher was because he had the talent of being able to get you to understand something. He wanted people to understand what God was like, how God was, how God operates. But you see, we can't understand how God operates when we get a messed up vision of God or image of God. So what Jesus did was he said, I'm going to give you a story. Get this, a story. Everyone knows this story as the prodigal son. I have to tell you today that this story was not about a person named Bob that he knew. This was a fictional example, just so people could understand it. And he was able to get everybody's attention with just a few words. He said a certain man had 2 sons. At that point, everybody was like, oh, yep, we know what's going to happen now. We know what's coming. Just like if I were to tell you a priest, a rabbi, and a minister walked into a bar. Yeah. You know what's coming. When Jesus said a man had 2 sons, everybody knew because of the culture there was going to be some resistance. There was going to be a confrontation. Because everything went to that the family had to the oldest boy. So as soon as he said that, he got their attention. Talking about non-resistance. A certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me my portion of goods that falleth to me. My portion. I just noticed something. Follow me here. Follow me. A certain man who had two sons, and the younger of them, the two sons, said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. And he, the father, delivered unto them his living. So does that mean that he gave both of the boys? I'm going to say for this story, yeah, he gave it to both of them. Remember that we talked about the reason there's resistance is impatience. The one that the younger boy, and not many days after that, the younger son gathered all together. Not many days after. He was impatient. He wanted his inheritance right then. I want it now. And he took it and journeyed off into a far country and wasted his substance in riotous living. Now, what I want you to see about this is the non-resistance. Many people are always going to look at this story and immediately take their attention to the boy that went off to the far country and wasted his substance on riotous living. That's where everybody's mind goes. But I want you to see how the Father, how Jesus is showing you how God is, was non-resistant. The boy said, Daddy, give me mine now, so I can go do whatever I want to do. Another thing my grandfather said was, you can do anything. No, I got to get the background of this. When my grandparents celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, all the grandsons got together with granddaddy, all the granddaughters got together with grandma. I don't know what the girl said to grandma, but this was our time to say anything that we wanted to granddaddy. And I said, okay. Married for 50 years to the same person. Said, I haven't done the same thing 50 times with the same person. How do you do it? What's the key? What's the secret? That's what everybody wants to know. What's the secret? He said the secret is 2 letters. Here's the law of non-resistance, the way my grandfather said it. Somebody has to say, okay. Doesn't mean you have to like it. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it. But somebody has got to say, okay. That's not resistance. The father here in this story said, okay. So he went on out, did everything that he wanted to do. The story goes on to say that when there was a famine in the land, let's go, when there was a famine in the land, everything was gone. Now he's got to figure out what he's going to do. At this point, the scripture says that he came to himself. You see, this is why they always want to make the story about the boy. How many, once he came to himself, he said, how many hired servants of my father's have bread enough to spare, and I'm perishing in hunger? He said, I will arise and go to my father. But get this, and will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee. You see, he knew in his mind, going back to dad, there was going to be a resistance. He was preparing for resistance in his mind. When I go back, I got to go tell Tuck because I'm going to hear, I told you so. You know, if you hadn't went out there, you would have been fine. So in the boy's mind, he was mentally preparing for there to be some resistance. And that's what a lot of us do. We prepare for resistance. We look for it. We go into it saying, oh, wait, I just hope he'll say so-and-so to me. I wish he would. Who does she think she is? See, we go through all of that in our own minds before the confrontation even starts. But here it is. This is what happened. In verse 20, and he arose and came to his father, but when he was yet a great way off, the father saw him and had compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. Wait a minute. Aren't you going to say, I told you so? Aren't you going to say, you never should have did that? Here's how to throw resistant people off. This is something I learned from my dad. 4 words can change an argument. 4 words can totally change confrontation. When there is an argument, when there is confrontation, the law of non-resistance, just try this and watch how it works. Just smile and say, thank you for sharing. Oh, try it in traffic. Somebody's trying to get around you and they're in a hurry. Just pull over. Go ahead. In the grocery store, watch how it works. You get 2 items and somebody get 20 and they're trying to cut in line in front of you. Try it. Oh, you know what? Go ahead. How you made? Smile. That throws them off your non-resistance. Because when you say, thank you for sharing, that's your opportunity to shift. And you see, every time you shift, you're not showing your weakness. All you're doing is building up your momentum. All you're doing every time you change direction is putting more fuel in your tank. Every time you say, thank you for sharing, you're putting more into your toolbox. You're getting yourself ready for your demonstration. Just because it doesn't happen right then, don't mean it's not going to happen. The law of resistance simply says, take your time, don't fight it. Because the battle is not yours. The battle is the Lord's. And I'm here to tell you that your arms are too short to box with God. Ron, you got this. love.